All right, welcome, true believers, to another episode of the Freedom to Draw Unsolved Mysteries. I'm your host, John Krupa, and today's case is the case of the infamous guy known as Ted Kaczynski, better known as the Unabomber. And if you have any information on this case or any other cases presented on this show, please contact these places. You cannot contact me. I can't do anything about it. I'm not law enforcement. I draw them, I don't solve them. The mystery of this case with Mr. Ted Kaczynski is, how did he die? Did he die of suicide like they're saying? Or did he get killed by another prisoner, much like the other serial killer, Jeffrey Dahmer? He has made the news once again for his death recently. And we're going to take a trip into the mind of a serial killer today on today's episode of Freedom to Draw Unsolved Mysteries. Guys, strap in and get ready. Couple of seconds, we're going to get right into it. It's the case of Ted Kaczynski, and we're going to draw Mr. Kaczynski and tell you a little bit about his story. There's a lot to tell with the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. And we're going to listen to Sarah McLaughlin in the background because it's National Sarah Day. If you know a Sarah in your life, give her some props today because it's her day. And this article is from January of this year, and some of the excerpts are from the book called Madman in the Woods, Life Next Door to the Unabomber by Jamie Gehring. The book Madman in the Woods, Life Next Door to the Unabomber by Jamie Gehring, the longtime next door neighbor of Ted Kaczynski. So that would probably be a very interesting read. I'm gonna have to check that one out. I recommend that one just by the sound of it. Sounds very intriguing. Ted Kaczynski, the man known as the world as the Unabomber, may have been the forebearer of the modern mass shootings killer. Brooding, alone, posting hateful screeds, then targeting his victims and stalking them. That's a form of stalking. And this man was definitely a stalker. He targeted unsuspecting people just going to check their mail. He would give you a little surprise in that mail that would blow yourself up in the process of opening your mail. He was the United States' most prolific domestic terrorist, living at large for 17 years before being apprehended in a 10 by 12 foot cabin in Lincoln, Montana. Jamie Garing is still surprised at some of the reaction she receives when talking about her former next door neighbor. How many did he kill? She is often asked. The answer, Kaczynski killed 3 and injured 23, a fact that seems somehow less appalling than the scores of people injured by mass shootings. But for years, government officials and leaders worried about getting a bomb. Garing had literally grown up living next door to Kaczynski. Her journey to adulthood was paralleled by Kaczynski's descent into madness and escalation of terror. The man who would bring her parents a hand-carved cup to celebrate her birth was also the man she'd hide from when he knocked at the door and no one else was around. So it doesn't sound like he was well liked even by his neighbors. Even his neighbors didn't like him before he went to jail. Well, when you hate everybody, people get the message. You know, it's not hard to get the message when someone is hateful and brooding and wants to be alone. A recluse. That's what they thought he was, but he's also a serial killer for many years, and no one knew. She knew his death was imminent. He was in his 80s and he had cancer. Honestly, it was a bit of a shock, Garing said. The news of his death on June 10th was sudden and suicide was suspected, but Garing has won praise for her treatment of Kaczynski's life in her book, Madman in the Woods, which is part memoir, part investigating the question, what happened to transform a Harvard-trained math whiz into a reclusive terrorist? Ted Kaczynski's brother, David, said Garing's book might well be the best attempt to yet understand the strange life and mind of my brother. Garing said some of her emotions are tied up in her past from family members dying of cancer. But now there's a lot of reports saying that they think he's committed suicide. It may well, it could have been he got some bad news from the doctor and just said, heck with it. I'm going to speed up the process here, but I don't know. You think this person smart as the Unabomber would take the word of a doctor and just end his life? But then again, he didn't have much to live for. And his days were confined to a 10 by 10 cell, but I mean, when you think about it, that's what he lived like when he was in Montana. He was living in a 10 by 12 cell. The only thing that's different is you can't go outside. As we listen to Sarah McLachlan on this National Sarah Day, These are the eyes of a serial killer here, a stalker, who stalked his victims on the commentary they would put out into the media. If he didn't like what you were saying in the media, you were going to get a letter from him containing a bomb, basically. Injured 23 people and killed 3. My feelings are complicated. There was grief, she said. And how can I possibly have those feelings for my childhood monster? Yet they brought up feelings of grief about my father and sister's passing. For her, Kaczynski's death was another reminder of those moments in the past slipping farther away. Now that she's had some time to think about it, speak about it, even write about it, she better understands what she was feeling, a deep sense of loss. A loss of those who lost their lives, a loss for those whose lives were changed, and the loss of the moments that were interrupted by his violence. In this story, there's not a lot of redemption, Goering said. There is peace because he's no longer with us, Goering said. We listened to a little Sarah McLachlan. For the past 5 years, she's been writing about the experiences growing up, accumulating in with her book. And this here is one of the screenshots from one of the few interviews that the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski did while he was in federal prison in 1999. He was in a supermax cell. So they only put the worst of the worst in these supermax facilities. Diabolical guys that just are not safe to be roaming the streets. They put into these places. So that's who Mr. Kaczynski had to associate with for the last, since 1999, that's over 20 years. Maybe he got sick of it. Maybe it was suicide, but we don't know for sure at this point. She's been able to process feelings of fear and terror, like the time Kaczynski pointed a gun at Goering and her sister. They learned later that he had poisoned the family dog. She still remembers hiding in the closet when he knocked on their door. As I did my interviews and writing and learning about who Ted Kaczynski was and who created him, and you'll never really know, Goering said, but I have come to more of an understanding, and I could let go of some of the anger. Yet she still thinks about many of the families of the victims of whom Kaczynski's death will be nothing more than a relief that he won't be around to harm others. Those families are still hurting. Just because Ted has passed, it's not that what he did can be erased, she said. The only redemption she could find is trying to stop the next genius turned hermit from becoming a terrorist. And that's what he was. She's not far off with that statement there. He was a recluse, but he was also a genius. You didn't want to get on his bad side. As we listen to Sarah McLachlan here on this National Sarah Day, if you know a Sarah in your life, give her a shout out today. We are definitely building a mystery right here, because we don't know how this man died. A lot of speculation, but no concrete facts at this point. We will update you on this case. We like to keep our subscribers in the loop on these cases, so when we get word of this guy's how he really died, we will let you know. For now, guys, that's about it. This is the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. Peace out, true believers. We'll catch you on the next episode, guys.